ground every day. I first want to welcome Emily Lee and thank her for joining us. Emily is the executive director of Seed the Vote, which is mobilizing thousands of volunteers and activists to defeat Trump and build the movement long term. Previously, y'all might know her because she spent 10 years at the Chinese Progressive Association, who we love, gang, gang, and was formerly co-director of San Francisco Rising, a multiracial grassroots coalition of community organizations focused on building political power for BIPOC and low-income communities. And secondly, I have the esteemed and blessed privilege of introducing to some and just reuniting with others, the incredible Kayla Reed, who is an organizer and strategist from St. Louis, Missouri. She's the co-founder and executive director of Action St. Louis, a grassroots racial justice organization that was founded after the 2014 Ferguson uprising that works to build Black political power. Kayla has also been one of my fam and comrades who was strategizing in the movement for Black Lives, where she co-founded the Electoral Justice Project, which we lovingly call EJP, that seeks to challenge electoral injustice, expand and mobilize the Black electorate, and strengthen the capacity of Black-led organizations that are building power all across the United States. Thank you both for being here. I'm going to ask you both to reflect on the strategy of Block and Build and to share what's coming up for you from your perspective of doing the work on the ground, about the challenges you're facing and what's working for you. But Emily, let's start with you. Can you tell us a bit about the work that Seed the Vote is doing and how you see it as a part of a Block and Build strategy?
Yes, thank you, Ash. I'm really excited to be on this panel today with Kayla and with you. Just a little bit about Seed the Vote. For those who don't know, we are an electoral organization that helps win elections by sending volunteers to door knock in battleground races. We place volunteers with local social justice organizations or labor unions that are working year-round in working class communities and communities of color with the goal of building long-term political power, because we know elections are important and they're also not enough. So if you want to come roll with us this year, but you can't afford to travel to another state to come door knock for Cori Bush or during the general election, Seed the Vote provides financial support for volunteers by covering plane tickets, rental cars, hotel rooms. We will help get you there if you are down to come door knock and defeat fascism and fight for our champions. So check us out at www.seedthevote.org. And this year, we're working with a bunch of amazing social movement organizations to implement Block and Build strategy. So for us, what Block and Build means is that Block, we are defeating MAGA candidates. We're defeating Trump. And it's a space where, like folks said, we're often needing to support centrist Democrats instead of the alternative. Build is where we're supporting our progressive champions, and we are defending people who are with us on the issues, who are really challenging systemic injustice at all levels. And Build also means we're supporting this local-based power building organizations who are there day in and day out, before elections, after elections. They're the ones who are going to be there to continue to build and organize our people. So this year in 2024, for the primaries, it's critical. We are defending and building the progressive wing of Congress by defending our ceasefire champions in the squad. We've talked a lot about the closest races this year. And, so we decided to focus on turning out volunteers to support Representative Summer Lee, Jamal Bowman, and Cori Bush. Obviously, folks know Summer Lee was one of the, first leaders on ceasefire in Congress. And her race happened in April and was, hard fought and won. And Seed the Vote was able to knock 11,000 doors in Pittsburgh and work with our local partners in PA United and the Asian Pacific Islander Political Alliance, who are building power locally with champions like Summer. We know that Bowman's loss last night was really deeply felt by our volunteers and communities across the country. I'm in a WhatsApp group with our volunteers, and their reaction was, hey, let's not give in to pessimism. Let's be even more determined to fight harder for Cori Bush. Let's go even harder for Cori. Let's go to St. Louis. Let's roll with Action St. Louis. And this loss is going to fuel the fire for a win in St. Louis coming up real soon. And so just really quickly, we're deciding to support and defend champions like Cori because Since her historic election to Congress in 2021, she's been a bold, compassionate, purposeful leader for Missouri's first congressional district. She brought over $2 billion back to St. Louis. And she's been a leading voice in Congress on the issues that matter to us, right? Demanding justice from St. Louis to Gaza. At the height of the pandemic, she led a massive direct action on the steps of the Capitol to stop tenants from getting kicked out of their homes, which resulted in a federal eviction moratorium. Her campaign is powered by small grassroots donors and support from everyday people like us, not right-wing super PACs or billionaire donors who are deeply disconnected from St. Louis. So for us, we want you to come roll with us, come door knock for Cori, come meet us in St. Louis from July 2nd to August 6th. Again, go to our website, seedthevote.org, to come sign up and get help. If you don't know how to get there, if you don't know what days you can go, or how you're going to get there, we can help you. And I just want to share a little bit about the other, portion of this unblocking. It really is kind of fighting the Christian nationalist agenda that you mentioned earlier, Ash. The Republican Party has been captured by MAGA, and there's trifectas held by MAGA in 22 states, right? So what we're going to do this year in November is also to block MAGA from seizing federal power and beat back the MAGA coalition, which is racist, which is anti-immigrant, which is xenophobic, and we are going to be building our progressive movement in that process. So I just want to share a real quick story about why we think canvassing is so important this year. This is a story from Georgia in 2020. Many people know about the Georgia runoffs for control of the Senate. We had a volunteer named Casey who knocked the door of an older voter who had never voted before. She'd been registered Democrat for decades and had never voted, not even against Trump in 2020. Casey talked to her, listened to her deeply, made a connection with her personally, and really talked to her about, why is this election so important? Why does she matter? Why does her opinion matter? Why does her voice matter? And, she said, you know what, you've convinced me, Casey. I do want to go vote, actually, but I'm watching my grandkids. I can't leave right now. Casey said, you know what? Don't worry. I got you. Let's all go into the car. All of us are going to head over to the polls right now. And that voter voted for the first time in decades. And in 2022, Casey came back again for another Georgia runoff, had that woman's cell phone number in her phone still, texted her and said, hey, I'm back in Georgia. How you doing? The woman remembered her and said, Casey, I talk about you all the time. And ever since that election, I have voted in every single election since you spoke to me, and you're the reason why I vote now. And this is the type of change we're making by talking to people face to face, person to person, across the country. And this is how we build our movement, right? And so this is the build part too. It's not just about supporting electeds, it's about supporting our people to go out there and exercise their political power. Thanks so much, Ash.
Give it up for Emily and the Seed the Vote team in the chat. Show some love in the emojis. Now I get to, talk to illustrious folks called her a hometown hero, Kayla Reed. Let's turn to you. In a few minutes, we're going to hear from Congresswoman Cori Bush. Can you give us some context on how we got here from the uprisings in Ferguson to the moment where you elected Representative Bush to Congress? And now to the work of defending the Congresswoman. How do you see what you're doing as a part of a block and build strategy?
Yeah, thanks, Ash. And thanks so much for everyone who took the time this Wednesday evening to join us on this call. Emily said a lot of what I was going to say, but the Congresswoman record speaks for herself. It speaks for itself. Again, my name is Kayla Reed. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the executive director of Action St. Louis Power Project. We are a grassroots organization committed to building Black political power here in St. Louis. We are a proud organization inside of the Movement for Black Lives ecosystem, and I am a very proud dues-paying member of the Working Families Party. And just as more context, I live in Missouri, and so the block and build strategy is very relevant to my everyday life because I live in the district of Cori Bush and in the state of Josh Hawley. And so at all times, I am very clear on the spectrum of politics that this country is navigating and what's at stake. And I am super clear that we need to build a reality where more people like Congresswoman Bush are in office and less people like Josh Hawley are in office. And so we have to make that a reality through organizing. And I just want to say that 10 years ago, I wasn't an organizer, right? I was a pharmacy technician, and I didn't know Cori Bush 10 years ago today. But now I know that she was a nurse and a mother and a pastor, and we lived in the same city, and we met on the streets of Ferguson after Mike Brown was killed. When we met, I don't think either of us knew that one of us would go on to be a congressperson in the US House, and one of us would lead an institution committed to building Black political power. But what we were committed to was justice for Mike Brown and justice for Black people at a time where we were seeing continued murders across the country. In our organizations, in our movements, both locally and nationally, I think we're seeking to answer a question. What does it look like to build governing power and practice a style of co-governance with elected officials that can change the material conditions of our communities? Since Cori Bush has been elected, she has tried to live up to that mandate. From fighting for reparations on a federal level, to introducing the People's Response Act, to fighting against the eviction moratorium ending, to ensuring billions of dollars make it back to St. Louis City and St. Louis County, she has been a champion. And when you are vocal in the face of injustice, there will be opposition. History has told us this time and time again. And whether that is those who are seeking housing or those who are seeking a ceasefire, Cori has been just a vocal and honest, bold voice in Congress. She is the voice of a generation. She is a voice of our movement. And she is true to the belief that we need to break these chains. And she does that through policy. She does that through activism. She does that through real footwork in our community here in St. Louis and in the halls of Congress. So we're seeking to answer this question: how do we build political power? And Cori is a manifestation of that work. And so she decided to run for office in a city where we had a 50-year family, a political dynasty that had never been adequately challenged. Cori said, I'm going to run. In the face of a loss, she said, I'm going to run again. And the voters stood with her and elected her to Congress in 2020. And 3 days into her tenure as a congresswoman, the first Black congresswoman from the state of Missouri, the insurrection happened. You know what my congresswoman said? You know what our congresswoman said? I'm banging to the end. And she means that in the sense that when there is a direct threat to people, to marginalized voices, she is going to fight. She is going to fight for us every way that she knows how. And people, the powers that be, those with resources, want to see her removed. They want someone complacent. They want someone controllable. They want someone who will move on their issues and not challenge their authority. That is not Cori Bush. And that is why AIPAC and right-wing conservatives are committed to spending millions in St. Louis to defeat her. But what I know as an organizer now, what Cori knows as an elected official now, is that money can never be an organized people. And so we have to be organized. And so we are going to do everything in our power. We are going to fight to the very end, to the polls close on August 6th, to ensure that Congresswoman Cori Bush is reelected. We have a coalition of organizations: racial justice, economic justice, reproductive justice, labor unions, faith institutions, old, young, Black, white, all ages, all creeds, who are coming together on a daily basis to ensure that we are talking to voters, to ensure that they know the truth of her record, the truth of her values, and the truth that we need to send her back to Congress. She is accountable to the working people of St. Louis. She is an ally to movements for justice. She is a comrade in the struggle for liberation. She is a champion, and as history shows, our champions will be under attack, but when people are organized, we can and we will win. So on August 6th, 3 days before the 10-year remembrance of the killing of Mike Brown and the spark of the Ferguson Uprising and the movement for Black lives, we are going to re-elect our champion. We are going to defeat AIPAC. We are going to defeat conservative billionaires who think they can buy our democracy. Her opponent may be bought, but St. Louis is not for sale. So we ask every single person on this call and every single person within your reach, it's time to show up. It's time to show up for St. Louis. It's time to defend our champions, and it's time to win. Come help us knock doors, make calls, send texts, do what you can. Donate to the organizations that are doing the work. This is an all hands on deck moment, and I believe the people will win. Thank you, Ash.
My homie said money can never beat an organized people. Y'all better get into it. Y'all too quiet in the chat, man. Because that was a whole word Kayla Reed just dropped, both about who our Congresswoman is and about the power of St. Louis, the power of the Midwest, the power of Missouri. Y'all should be inspired. Y'all should be ready to fight. So I need you to show some love to Kayla Reed. I need you to show some love to Emily Lee right now in the chat. Give it up one time. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Emily.